This lesson goes with Lesson 7 of Kittel and Hoffer's Introduction to Biblical Hebrew. First task, as always, is to pronounce our sentence. If we begin with the first word, Vayitain, Vayitain, Avraham, Avraham, et kol asher lo leYitzchak. Vayiten Avraham et kol asher lo leYitzchak. Alright, let's begin with our verb. Before we start working on this verb, we already know some things about it. If you remember our verb exercise where we simply looked at the vav conversive and the vowel under the prefix, this vav conversive has the vowel of a cow. So what we know is it's a vav conversive form. It's in the cow stem. And the cow stem is indicated by the hirek under the yod. Now, this dagesh is the standard dagesh of the vav conversive, indicating vav patak double. And this dagesh is one that has grammatical significance. This is dagesh forte. We know because dagesh lene only appears at the beginning of a word or after silent shva. So we've got a dagesh forte that we will need to explain. Now then, the question, as always, is what is the root of this word? If we remove the prefix and the vav conversive marker, then we're left with tain. Since there are only two root letters left, it's apparent that something is missing from our root. So one possibility is that the dagesh indicates a doubling of the tav, so that our root would be tav, tav, nun. But this will turn out to be incorrect. A root never begins with the same letter twice. So tav, tav, nun is not a valid root. Now we've got something else that's unusual with this word. It's in the cow, as indicated by the vowel under the prefix, but yet we have a doubled root letter. So this is an unusual form. Normally, as you know, the doubling of the root letter is reserved for the PL. So here, when we see doubling in the cow, we have something we need to explain. The trick here is to recall that the letter nun does not like to stand over a silent shva. So you remember our example that min plus sham becomes min sham, and then that our nun assimilates into the shin as a dagesh. So min sham becomes misham with a double shin. So if we imagine the same process taking place in the cow, if we had a root that began with a nun, like Natan, and we formed it into the cow vav conversive prefix, we would get Vayintain. This is just our usual form of the cow vav conversive, except for the E-class vowel under the tav. But anyway, so just like Vayifkod, here we would have Vayintain. Now the problem is that this nun does not like to stand over the silent shva. It is not strong enough to hold that position. So what will happen is our nun will assimilate into the tav as a dagesh, and then our first root radical has disappeared. So what we have here is dagesh forte marking the assimilation of a first nun. So our root, natan, nun tav nun, the nun has been assimilated into the tav through the process we've just seen. So knowing that, we can fill in our verb chart. The root, nun tav nun. The stem, indicated by the vowel under the prefix, is cow. The form, as always, is prefix, person, gender, number. We have no complement at the end of this word, so this is simply third masculine singular, and of course, vav conversive. So if we were to translate Vayitain, Natan, of course, the root means to give, so Vayitain, and he gave. Alright, so and he gave. Now, the subject of the verb, of course, is typically the word just following the verb. Here we have a masculine singular noun that can serve as the subject of vayitain. So vayitain Avraham, and Abraham gave. We have one more word that we should immediately recognize in this sentence. Here we have le, Yitzchak, to Isaac. Le, of course, is our preposition prefix, and Yitzchak, proper name, meaning Isaac. So Abraham gave something to Isaac. So what remains for us then is to translate this middle chain, et kol asher lo. So we know this word kol from vocabulary. This means all, or all of. We know asher as well from vocabulary. This is our relative pronoun, which, or that. Lo, as you are familiar, is the preposition lamed plus the third masculine singular object suffix vav. So lo is lamed plus vav equals to him. Now the first word in the phrase is something we've seen, but we haven't really talked about formally. This is the word et, which is the marker of the direct object when the direct object is definite. So we can call this the sign of the definite direct object, or the SDDO. It only appears if the direct object is definite, and even then it does not always appear. So this is another one where if it's there, then it's indicating a definite direct object, but if it's not there, it is still possible to have a definite direct object. So how would you translate the phrase, et kol asher lo? Et does not need to be translated. It's just a sort of like a flag, a marker. So kol asher lo, everything that was to him, or everything that was his, or everything that he had. So, our whole sentence, Vayitain Avraham et kol asher lo laYitzchak, and Abraham gave all that was his to Isaac. Okay, so let's review our kal prefix vav conversive forms. Our strong root, pakad. If we are to make the kal prefix vav conversive of pakad, then we would write vayifkod. You recall that the hirek under the yod is the marker of the kal prefix in the third masculine singular, and also the holum between the second and third radical, although that marker is less reliable. So pakad, vayifkod. Now, in addition to strong roots, we've also learned first aleph roots. So prefix vav conversive in the kal for first aleph, vayomer, the O class vowel, marking the aleph, although the aleph doesn't drop out, so it's fairly clear what the root is. Kal typically is an O class vowel. We've also learned first yod, so yashav is our example root for the first yod, and we know that the third kal prefix vav conversive third masculine singular, vayeshev. Vayeshev. We also have halach, which functions like a first yod. So like the first yod, it will have a tere under the prefix. So vayelech. Vayelech. So when you see a tere under the prefix, most often you're looking at a first yod root, but you could also be looking at our first hey halach, which thinks it's a first yod. Our example for a middle week is kum. You will recall that this will become vayakom. Here you have the comets under the prefix, and also you retain the U class vowel between the second and third radicals, so vayakom. You remember if the root is a middle yod, like sheet, then it would become vayashet, and would retain an E class vowel. Finally, we have now learned first nuns, which are also weak. So natan, becomes vayitain. Recall that this has the standard vowel of the cow prefix vav conversive, but what happens is that our nun, which would stand over a silent shva, instead assimilates into the tav. So the nun is assimilated, causing the tav to double. So natan becomes vayitain. So these are the forms that we know so far. Strong, first aleph, first yod, halach, middle weak, first nun. Now we can also review our singular plural forms. So as you remember, the marker of a vav conversive third masculine singular is the yod. In the vav conversive, vav patak yod. In the plural, then, we still have the vav patak yod doubled, but we also add the shurek, the complement at the end of the verb. So, for example, if we look at pakad, then our third masculine singular, as we've just seen, vayifkod, plural, we add the shurek, and our theme vowel, the o, reduces to a shva, vayifkedu. You can also look at shema. Shema is vayishma. Again, the hirek is the typical marker of the strong root, vav conversive in the cow. Here we have a patach under the mem due to the the ayin at the end of the word attracting the patach. Plural vayishma'u. Here again, add the shurek and reduce the theme vowel to a shva. Vayishma, vayishma'u. We can look also at amar. You recall vayomer and vayomeru. Yashav, vayeshev, and then vayeshavu. Vayeshev, vayeshavu. Here is halach, forming just like the first yod. So vayelech, vayelechu. Here is our middle weak bo, vayavo, which will become vayavo'u. Our standard is kum, vayakom, which becomes vayakumu. Vayakumu. And here is our first nun, natan, vayitain, vayitnu. Vayitain, vayitnu. Of course, we know one PL prefix vav conversive, and that is the root devar. Here we see the third masculine singular prefix vav conversive in the PL of devar. There is a shva under the prefix and a doubling of the middle radical. So vayedaber or vaidaber, as it is written here. Then, in order to make this plural, we do the same thing that we do in the cow, which is just add the vav and the shurek and reduce the vowel. So vayedabru, vayedabru. Okay, so what you have learned today is the cow prefix vav conversive of first nun roots, vayitain, vayitnu, and you've also learned the direct object marker et. So go back and review those. Make sure that you understand how to identify the different forms of the cow vav conversive prefix, and then look at the assignments in Kittel and Hoffer.